Good day. So the last chapter died out 2 pages before the end, so I'm going to pick up there and then begin chapter 11. Welcome. I recognize that this is terribly unglamorous. I hope you're okay with that. I am. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing. All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Marie Remarque. Published 1929. Last 2 pages of chapter 10 before we begin chapter 11. The next afternoon, his wife appears, a tousled little woman with anxious, quick eyes like a bird. In a sort of black, crinkly mantilla with ribbons. Heaven knows where she inherited the thing. She murmurs something softly and stands shyly in the doorway. It terrifies her that there are 6 of us men present. Well, Marja, says Lewandowski, and gulps dangerously with his Adam's apple. You can come in all right. They won't hurt you. She goes round and proffers each of us her hand. Then she produces the child, which in the intervals has done something in its napkin. From a large handbag embroidered with beads, she takes out a clean one and makes the child fresh and presentable. This dispels her first embarrassment, and the two begin to talk. Lewandowski is very fidgety. Every now and then she squints across at us, most unhappily with his round goggle eyes. The time is favorable. The doctor's visit is over. At the most, one of the sisters might come in. So one of us goes out to prospect. He comes back and nods. Not a soul to be seen. Now's your chance, Johann. Set to. The two speak together in an undertone. The woman turns a little red and looks embarrassed. We grin good-naturedly and make pooh-poohing gestures. What does it matter? The devil takes all conventions. They were made for other times. Here lies the carpenter Johann Lewandowski, a soldier shot to a cripple, and there is his wife. Who knows when he will see her again? He wants to have her, and he should have her. Good. 2 men stand at the door to forestall the sisters and keep them occupied if they chance to come along. They agree to stand guard for a quarter of an hour or thereabouts. Lewandowski can only lie on his side, so one of us props a couple of pillows against his side. Albert gets the child to hold. We all turn round a bit. The black mantilla disappears under the bedclothes. We make a great clatter and play scat noisily. All goes well. I hold a club solo with 4 jacks, which nearly goes the round. In the process, we almost forget Lewandowski. After a while, the child begins to squall, although Albert, in desperation, rocks it to and fro. There is a bit of creaking and rustling, and as we look up casually, we see that the child has the bottle in its mouth and is back again with its mother. The business is over. We now feel ourselves like one big family. The woman is happy, and Lewandowski lies there sweating and beaming. He unpacks the embroidered handbag, and some good sausages come to light. Lewandowski takes up the knife with a flourish and saws the meat into slices. With a handsome gesture, he waves towards us, and the little woman goes from one to another and smiles at us and hands round the sausage. She now looks quite handsome. We call her Mother. She is pleased and shakes up our pillows for us. After a few weeks, I have to go each morning to the massage department. There, my leg is harnessed up and made to move. The arm has healed long since. New convoys arrive from the line. The bandages are no longer made of cloth, but of white crepe paper. Rag bandages have become scarce at the front. Albert's stump heals well. The wound is almost closed. In a few weeks, he should go off to an institute for artificial limbs. He continues not to talk much and is much more solemn than formerly. He often breaks off in his speech and stares in front of him. If he were not here with us, he would have shot himself long ago. But now he is over the worst of it, and he often looks on while we play scat. I get convalescent leave. My mother does not want to let me go away. She is feeble. It is all much worse than it was last time. Then I am recalled to my regiment and return once more to the line. Parting from my friend Albert Kropp was very hard, but a man gets used to that sort of thing in the army. Chapter 11. We count the weeks no more. It was winter when I came up, and when the shells exploded, the frozen clods of earth were just as dangerous as the fragments. Now the trees are green again. Our life alternates between billets and the front. Billets, and the front. We have almost grown accustomed to it. War is the cause of death like cancer and tuberculosis, like influenza and dysentery. The deaths are merely more frequent, more varied, and terrible. Our thoughts are clay. They are molded with the changes of the day. When we are resting, they are good. Under fire, they are dead. Fields of craters within and without. Everyone is so, not only ourselves here. The things that existed before are no longer valid, and one practically knows them no more. Distinctions, breeding, education are changed, are almost blotted out and hardly recognizable any longer. Sometimes they give us an advantage for profiting by a situation, but they also bring consequences along with them, in that they arouse prejudices which have to be overcome. It is though formerly we were coins of different provinces, and now we are melted down, and all bear the same stamp. To rediscover the old distinctions, the metal itself must be tested. First, we are soldiers, and afterwards, in a strange and shamefaced fashion, individual men as well. It is a great brotherhood, which adds something of the good fellowship of the folk song, of the feeling of solidarity of convicts, and of the desperate loyalty to one another of men condemned to death, to a condition of life arising out of the midst of danger, out of the tension and forlornness of death, seeking in a wholly unpathetic way a fleeting enjoyment of the hours as they come. If one wants to appraise it, it is at once heroic and banal. But who wants to do that? It is this, for example, that makes Jaden spoon down his ham and pea soup in such tearing haste when an enemy attack is reported, simply because he cannot be sure that in an hour's time he will be alive. We have discussed it at length, whether it is right or not to do so. Cat condemns it because, he says, a man has to reckon with the possibility of an abdominal wound, and that is more dangerous on a full stomach than on an empty one. Such things are real problems. They are serious matters to us. They cannot be otherwise. Here on the borders of death, life follows an amazingly simple course. It is limited to what is most necessary. All else lies buried in gloomy sleep. In that, besides our primitiveness and our survival, we are more subtly differentiated, we must long since have gone mad. Were we more subtly differentiated, we must long since have gone mad, have deserted, or have fallen. As in a polar expedition, every expression of life must serve only the preservation of existence, and is absolutely focused on that. All else is banished because it would consume energies unnecessarily. That is the only way to save ourselves. In the quiet hours when the puzzling reflection of former days, like a blurred mirror, projects beyond me the figure of my present existence, I often sit over against myself, as before a stranger, and wonder how the unnameable active principle that calls itself to life has adapted itself even to this form. All other expressions lie in a winter sleep. Life is simply one continual watch against the menace of death. It has transformed us into unthinking animals in order to give us the weapon of instinct. It has reinforced us with dullness so that we do not go to pieces before the horror which would overwhelm us if we had clear, conscious thought. It has awakened in us the sense of comradeship. I'll have to look that up, how to pronounce that. So that we escape the abyss of solitude. It has lent us the indifference of wild creatures, so that in spite of all, we perceive the positive in every moment and store it up as a reserve against the onslaught of nothingness. Thus we live a closed, hard existence of the utmost superficiality, and rarely does an incident strike out a spark. But then, unexpectedly, a flame of grievous and terrible yearning flares up. Those are the dangerous moments. They show us that the adjustment is only artificial, that it is not simple rest, but sharpest struggle for rest. In the outward form of our life, we are hardly distinguishable from bushmen. But whereas the latter can be so always, because they are so truly and at best may develop further by exertion of their spiritual forces, with us it is the reverse. Our inner forces are not exerted toward regeneration, but towards degeneration. The Bushmen are primitive and naturally so, but we are primitive in an artificial sense, and by virtue of the utmost effort. And at night, waking out of a dream, overwhelmed and bewitched by the crowding apparitions, a man perceives with alarm how slight is the support, how thin the boundary that divides him from the darkness. We are little flames poorly sheltered by frail walls against the storm of dissolution and madness, in which we flicker and sometimes almost go out. Then, The muffled roar of the battle becomes a ring that encircles us. We creep in upon ourselves and with big eyes stare into the night. Our only comfort is the steady breathing of our comrades asleep. And thus we wait for the morning. Every day and every hour, every shell and every death cuts into this thin support, and the years waste it rapidly. I see how it is already gradually breaking down around me. There is the mad story of Dettering. He was one of those who kept himself to himself. His misfortune was that he saw a cherry tree in a garden. We were just coming back from the front line, and at a turning of the roar near our billets, marvelous in the morning twilight, stood this cherry tree before us. It had no leaves, but was one white mass of blossom. In the evening, Dettering was not to be seen. Then at last he came back and had a couple of branches of cherry blossom in his hand. We made fun of him and asked whether he was going to a wedding. He made no answer, but lay down on his bed. During the night, I heard him making a noise. He seemed to be packing. I sensed something amiss and went over to him. He made out it was nothing, and I said to him, "Don't do anything silly, Dettering." "Ah, why? It's merely that I can't sleep." "What did you pick the cherry branches for?" "Surely I can pick a cherry blossom if I want to," he replied evasively. And after a while, "I have a big orchard with cherry trees at home. When they are in blossom from the hayloft, they look like one single sheet, so white. It is just the time." "Perhaps you will get leave soon. You may even be sent back as a farmer." He nodded, but he was far away. When these peasants are excited, they have a curious expression, a mixture of cow and yearning God, half stupid and half rapt. In order to turn him away from his thoughts, I asked him for a piece of bread. He gave it to me without a murmur. That was suspicious, for he is usually tight-fisted. So I stayed awake. Nothing happened. In the morning, he was as usual. Apparently, he had noticed that I had been watching him. But the second morning, he was gone. I noticed it, but said nothing, in order to give him time. He might perhaps get through. Various fellows have already gotten into Holland. But at roll call, he was missed. A week after we heard that he had been caught by the field gendarmes, those despicable military police. He had headed towards Germany. That was hopeless, of course. And of course, he did everything else just as idiotically. Anyone might have known that his flight was only homesickness and a momentary aberration. But what does a court-martial 100 miles behind the front line know about it? We have heard nothing more of Dettering. But sometime it broke out in other ways. This danger, these pent-up things, as far from overheated as from an overheated boiler. It will be enough to tell how Berger met his end. Our trenches have now for some time been shot to pieces, and we have an elastic line, so that there is practically no longer any proper trench warfare. When attack and counterattack have waged backwards and forwards, there remains a broken line and a bitter struggle from crater to crater. The front line has been penetrated, and everywhere small groups have established themselves. The fight is carried on from clusters of shell holes. We are in a crater. The English are coming down obliquely. They are turning our flank and working in behind us. We are surrounded. It is not easy to surrender. Fog and smoke hang over us. No one would recognize that we wanted to give ourselves up, and perhaps we don't want to. A man doesn't even know himself at such moments. We hear the explosions of the hand grenades coming towards us. Our machine gun sweeps over the semicircle in front of us. The cooling water evaporates. We hastily pass round the case. Every man pisses in it, and thus we again have water and are able to continue firing. But behind us, the attack crashes ever nearer. A few minutes, and we are lost. Then, at close range, a second machine gun bursts out. It is set up in a crater alongside us. Berger has fetched it, and now the counterattack comes over from behind. We are set free and make contact with the rear. Afterwards, as we lie in comparatively good cover, one of the food carriers reports that a couple of 100 yards distant there lies a wounded messenger dog. Where? Asks Berger. The other describes the place to him. Berger goes off either to fetch the beast in or to shoot it. 6 months ago, he would not have cared. He would have been reasonable. We try to prevent him. Then, as he goes off grimly, all we can say is, "You're mad," and let him go. For these cases of frontline madness become dangerous if one is not able to fling the man to the ground and hold him fast. And Berger is 6 feet and the most powerful man in the company. He is absolutely mad, for he has to pass through the barrage. But this lightning that lowers somewhere above us has struck him and made him demented. It affects others so that they begin to rave and to run away. There was one man who even tried to dig himself into the ground with hands, feet, and teeth. It is true, such things are often simulated, but the pretense itself is a symptom. Berger, who means to finish off the dog, is carried away with a wound in the pelvis, and one of the fellows who carry him gets a bullet in the leg while doing it. Mueller is dead. Someone shot him point blank in the stomach with a very light. He lived for half an hour, quite conscious and in terrible pain. Before he died, he handed over his pocketbook to me and bequeathed me his boots, the same that he once inherited from Kemmerich. I wear them, for they fit me quite well. After me, Jaden will get them. I have promised them to him. We have been able to bury Mueller, but he is not likely to remain undisturbed. Our lines are falling back. There are too many fresh English and American regiments over there. There's too much corned beef and white wheaten bread. Too many new guns. Too many aeroplanes. But we are emaciated and starved. Our food is bad and mixed up with so much substitute stuff that it makes us ill. The factory owners in Germany have grown wealthy. Dysentery dissolves our bowels. The latrine poles are always densely crowded. The people at home ought to be shown these gray, yellow, miserable, wasted faces here. These bent figures from whose bodies the colic wrings out the blood, and who, with lips trembling and distorted with pain, grin at one another and say, It is not much sense pulling up one's trousers again. Our artillery is fired out. It has too few shells, and the barrels are so worn that they shoot uncertainly and scatter so widely as even to fall on ourselves. We have too few horses. Our fresh troops are anemic boys in need of rest, who cannot carry a pack, but merely know how to die by thousands. They understand nothing about warfare. They simply go on and let themselves be shot down. A single flyer routed 2 companies of them for a joke, just as they came fresh from the train, before they had ever heard of such a thing as cover. Germany ought to be empty soon, says Cat. We have given up hope that someday an end may come. We never think so far. A man can stop a bullet and be killed. He can get wounded, and then the hospital is his next stop. There, if they do not amputate him, he sooner or later falls into the hands of one of those staff surgeons who, with the War Service Cross in his buttonhole, says to him, "What, one leg a bit short? If you have any pluck, you don't need to run at the front. The man is A1. Dismiss!" Cat tells a story that has traveled the whole length of the front from the Vosges to Flanders, of the staff surgeon who reads the names on the list and when a man comes before him without looking up says, "A1, we need soldiers up there." A fellow with a wooden leg comes up before him and the staff surgeon again says, "A1." And then Cat raises his voice. The fellow says to him, "I already have a wooden leg, but when I go back again and they shoot off my head, then I will get a wooden head maybe and become a staff surgeon." This answer tickles us all immensely. There may be good doctors, and there are, lots of them. All the same, every soldier, sometime during his hundreds of inspections, falls into the clutches of one of these countless hero grabbers who pride themselves on changing as many C3s and B3s as possible into A1s. There are many such stories. They are mostly far more bitter. All the same, they have nothing to do with mutiny or lead swinging. They are merely honest and call a thing by its name. For there is a very great deal of fraud, injustice, and baseness in the army. It is nothing that regiment after regiment returns again and again to the ever more hopeless struggle. That attack follows attack along the weakening, retreating, crumbling line. From a mockery, the tanks have become a terrible weapon. Armored, they come rolling on in long lines. More than anything else, embody for us the horror of war. We do not see the guns that bombard us. The attacking lines of the enemy infantry are men like ourselves, but these tanks are machines. Their caterpillars run on as endless as the war. They are annihilation. They roll without feeling into the craters and climb up again without stopping. A fleet of roaring, smoke-belching armor-clads, invulnerable steel beasts, squashing the dead and the wounded. We shrivel up in our thin skin before them. Against their colossal weight, our arms are sticks of straw and our hand grenades matches. Shells, gas clouds, and flotillas of tanks, shattering, corroding, death. Dysentery, influenza, typhus, scalding, choking. death. Trenches, hospitals, the common grave. There are no other possibilities. In one attack, our company commander, Bertinick, falls. He was one of those superb frontline officers who are foremost in every hot place. He was with us for 2 years without being wounded, so that something had to happen in the end. We occupy a crater and get surrounded. The stink of petroleum or oil blows across with the fumes of powder. Two fellows with a flamethrower are seen. One carries the tin on his back, the other has the hose in his hands from which the fire spouts. If they get so near that they can reach us, we are done for. We cannot retreat yet. We open fire on them, but they work nearer and things begin to look bad. Bertinick is lying in the hole with us. When he sees that we cannot hit them, because under the sharp fire we have to think too much about keeping under cover, he takes a rifle, crawls out of the hole, and lying down, propped on his elbows, he takes aim. He fires. The same moment a bullet smacks into him. They have got him. Still he lies and aims again. Once he shifts and again takes aim. At last the rifle cracks. Bertink lets the gun drop and says, "Good," and slips back into the hole. The hindermost of the two flamethrowers is hit. He falls. The hose slips away from the other fellow. The fire squirts about on all sides, and the man burns. Bertink has a chest wound. After a while, a fragment smashes away his chin, and the same fragment has sufficient force to tear open Lear's hip. Lear groans as he supports himself on his arm. He bleeds quickly. No one can help him. Like an emptying tube, after a couple of minutes, he collapses. What use is it to him now that he was such a good mathematician at school? The months pass by. The summer of 1918 is the most bloody and the most terrible. The days stand like angels in blue and gold, incomprehensible above the ring of annihilation. Every man here knows that we are losing the war. Not much is said about it. We are falling back. We will not be able to attack again after this big offensive. We have no more men and no more ammunition. Still, the campaign goes on. The dying goes on. Summer of 1918. Never has life in its niggardliness seemed to us so desirable as now. The red poppies in the meadows round our billets, the smooth beetles on the blades of grass, the warm evenings in the cool, dim rooms, the black, mysterious trees of the twilight, the stars and the flowing waters, dreams and long sleep. Oh, life, life, life. Summer of 1918. Never was so much silently suffered as in the moments when we depart once again for the front line. Wild, tormenting rumors of an armistice and peace are in the air. They laid hold on our hearts and make the return to the front harder than ever. Summer of 1918. Never was life in the line more bitter and full of horror than in the hours of the bombardment, when the blanched faces lie in the dirt and the hands clutch at the one thought, no, no, not now, not now at the last moment. Summer of 1918. Breath of hope. that sweeps over the scorched fields, raging fever of impatience, of disappointment, of the most agonizing terror of death. Insensate question. Why? Why do they make an end? And why do these rumors of an end fly about? There are so many airmen here, and they are so sure of themselves that they give chase to single individuals, just as though they were hares. For every one German plane, there come at least 5 English and American. For one hungry, wretched German soldier come 5 of the enemy, fresh and fit. For one German army loaf, there are 50 tins of canned beef over there. We are not beaten, for as soldiers we are better and more experienced. We are simply crushed and driven back by overwhelming superior forces. Behind us lay rainy weeks, gray sky, gray fluid earth, gray dying. If we go out, the rain at once soaks through our overcoat and clothing, and we remain wet all the time we are in the line. We never get dry. Those who will wear high boots, tie and bags on the tops so that the mud does not pour in so fast. The rifles are caked, the uniforms caked, everything is fluid and dissolved. The earth, one dripping, soaked, oily mass in which lie yellow pools with red spiral streams of blood, and into which the dead, wounded, and survivors slowly sink down. The storm lashes us. Out of the confusion of the gray and yellow, the hail of splinters whips forth the childlike cries of the wounded, and in the night shattered life groans painfully into silence. Our hands are earth, our bodies clay, and our eyes pools of rain. We do not know whether we still live. Then the heat sinks heavily into our shell holes like a jellyfish, moist and oppressive, and on one of these late summer days, while bringing food, Cat falls. We two are alone. I bind up his wound. His shin seems to be smashed. It has got the bone, and Cat groans desperately. At last, just at the last. I comfort him. Who knows how long this mess will go on yet? Now you are saved. The wound begins to bleed fast. Cat cannot be left by himself while I try to find a stretcher. Anyway, I don't know the stretcher bearer's post in the neighborhood. Cat is not very heavy, so I take him up on my back and start off to the dressing station with him. Twice we rest. He suffers acutely on the way. We do not speak much. I have opened the collar of my tunic and breathe heavily. I sweat and my face is swollen with the strains of carrying. All the same, I urge him to let us go on, for the place is dangerous. Shall we go on again, Cat? Must, Paul. Then come. I raise him up. He stands on the uninjured leg and supports himself against a tree. I take up the wounded leg carefully. Then he gives a jump, and I take the knee of the sound leg also under my arm. The going is more difficult. Often a shell whistles across. I go as quickly as I can, for the blood from Cat's wound drips to the ground. We cannot shelter ourselves properly for the explosions. Before we can take cover, the danger is all over. We lie down in a small hole to wait till the shelling is over. I give Cat some tea from my water bottle. We smoke a cigarette. Well, Cat, I say gloomily, we are going to be separated at last. He is silent and looks at me. Do you remember, Cat, how we commandeered the goose? And how you brought me out of the barrage when I was still a young recruit and was wounded for the first time? I cried then. Cat, that is almost 3 years ago. He nods. The anguish of solitude rises up in me. When Cat is taken away, I will not have one friend left. Cat, in any case, we must see one another again, if it is peacetime before you come back. Do you think that I will be marked A1 again with this leg? He asks bitterly. With rest it will get better. The joint is quite sound. It may get all right again. Give me another cigarette, he says. Perhaps we could do something together later on, Cat. I am very miserable. It is impossible that Cat, my friend, Cat with the drooping shoulders and the poor, thin mustache, Cat, whom I know as I know no other man, Cat with whom I have shared these years. It is impossible that perhaps I shall not see Cat again. In any case, give me your address at home, Cat, and here is mine. I will write it down for you. I write his address in my pocketbook. How forlorn I am already, though he still sits there beside me. Couldn't I shoot myself quickly in the foot so as to be able to go with him? Suddenly, Cat gurgles and turns green and yellow. Let us go on, he stammers. I jump up, eager to help him. I take him up and start off at a run, a slow, steady pace, so as not to jolt his leg too much. My throat is parched. Everything dances red and black before my eyes. I stagger on doggedly and pitilessly, and at last reach the dressing station. There I drop down on my knees, but have still enough strength to fall onto the side where Cat's sound leg is. After a few minutes, I straighten myself up again. My legs and my hands tremble. I have trouble in finding my water bottle to take a pull. My lips tremble as I try to think, but I smile. Cat is saved. After a while, I begin to sort out the confusion of voices that fall on my ears. You might have spared yourself that, says an orderly. I look at him without comprehending. He points to Cat. He is stone dead. I do not understand him. He has been hit in the shin, I say. The orderly stands still. That as well. I turn round. My eyes are still dulled. The sweat breaks out on me again. It runs over my eyelids. I wipe it away and peer at Cat. He lies still. Fainted, I say quickly. The orderly whistles softly. I know better than that. He is dead. I'll lay any money on that. I shake my head. Not possible. Only 10 minutes ago I was talking to him. He has fainted. Cat's hands are warm. I pass my hand under his shoulders in order to rub his temples with some tea. I feel my fingers become moist. As I draw them away from behind his head, they are bloody. You see? The orderly whistles once more through his teeth. On the way, without my having noticed it, Cat has caught a splinter in the head. There is just one little hole. It must have been a very tiny, stray splinter, but it has sufficed. Cat is dead. Slowly I get up. Would you like to take his pay book and his things? The lance corporal asks me. I nod and he gives them to me. The orderly is mystified. You are not related, are you? No, we are not related. No, we are not related. Do I walk? Have I still feet? I raise my eyes. I let them move round and turn myself with them. One circle, and I stand in the midst. All is as usual. Only the militiaman Stanislaus Kaczynski has died. Then I know nothing more.